From beloved breakout star to the center of swirling controversy, Jenna Ortega's career trajectory has taken a sharp and deeply uncomfortable turn. Once praised for her poise and authenticity, she now finds herself tangled in a web of unsettling roles, troubling collaborators, and a silence that's beginning to speak volumes. Whether she's pushing boundaries or towing the line of public acceptance, one thing's clear: Jenna isn't playing it safe anymore. The spotlight first began to turn harsh when she starred in Miller's Girl, a 2024 film that many felt crossed a line that should have never been approached. The premise alone had people uneasy. An 18-year-old high school student enters into a disturbing relationship with her much older teacher, played by 52-year-old Martin Freeman. That alone would have raised eyebrows, but the fact that the movie treated this dynamic as artistic expression pushed the backlash into overdrive. Audiences expected discomfort, but what they got felt exploitative. Freeman, who visibly looked every bit his age, was placed opposite a youthful Jenna in scenes that critics described as predatory fantasy disguised as drama. Instead of condemning the storyline or calling out the disturbing nature of the relationship, Jenna defended the film. In an interview, she claimed that art isn't always pleasant, and that this was meant to spark uncomfortable conversations. But for many, that felt like a hollow excuse. Miller's Girl didn't feel like a conversation starter. It felt like a glamorized depiction of grooming. Parents were horrified. Comment sections exploded. And worst of all, Jenna's lack of pushback made it seem like she was fine with all of it. Then came the reviews. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a brutal 29% score. Even among indie film fans who usually embrace the controversial and avant-garde, the movie was panned. Viewers described it as awkward, pretentious, and emotionally manipulative. Lines of dialogue meant to be deep came off as cringeworthy. Entire scenes felt like uncomfortable monologues soaked in misplaced intensity. Financially, it tanked. Despite a modest $4 million budget, Miller's Girl failed to break even, barely scraping $900,000 in box office returns. That's not just a flop, that's a faceplant. And in Hollywood, when something bombs that hard, people start pointing fingers. Behind the scenes, the film's intimacy coordinator tried to do damage control. She assured the public that Jenna had full control on set, that boundaries were clear, and that every scene was simulated using modesty garments and visual tricks. But none of that changed the fact that audiences felt like they had just watched a long, disturbing depiction of a teacher manipulating a student. At the center of that discomfort was Martin Freeman, and he didn't exactly help his case. Years before Miller's Girl, Freeman had already left a bad taste in the public's mouth. During a press interview for The Hobbit, he was asked a playful question. Would he date a dwarf, a hobbit, or an elf? His response started lighthearted, but quickly turned dark. He said elves, then added a shocking joke. "I've got drugs. I could slip them into their goblet." Yes, he really said that on camera, in front of a press panel. It didn't stop there. Freeman later joked about hitting his kids, dismissed hip-hop culture, and dropped the N-word multiple times while explaining he wasn't racist. Combine all that with a long list of off-color comments, and people started asking why someone like Jenna Ortega would agree to share the screen with him, let alone in a role that's already dangerously inappropriate. But the list of questionable collaborators doesn't stop with Freeman. Jenna also signed onto a film directed by David O. Russell. Yes, the same David O. Russell, who's been followed by disturbing allegations for over a decade. In 2011, he admitted during a police interview to crossing the line with his transgender niece. While he was never charged, the damage was done. The case became infamous and still resurfaces regularly. Russell's reputation as a volatile director is also well documented. He once screamed at actress Lily Tomlin on set in a now viral meltdown. He's reportedly gotten into physical altercations with other filmmakers, including putting director Christopher Nolan in a headlock at a party. Another time, he allegedly punched a studio exec. Despite all that, Jenna's teaming up with him for a project called Shout Out, and fans are not thrilled. People began asking the obvious. Why does she keep working with men who are walking red flags? And even more disturbing, why does she stay silent? The silence is the part that really hurts her image. After Miller's Girl crashed and burned, after Freeman's past resurfaced, after David O. Russell's history became the topic of Reddit threads again, Jenna said nothing. No clarifications, no distancing, no acknowledgement. And in 2024, silence isn't just passive, it's a choice. That choice became even more noticeable when controversy erupted around another of Jenna's close co-stars, Percy Hines-White. The two starred in Netflix's Wednesday, which was Jenna's breakout hit, but in early 2023, disturbing allegations surfaced about Percy. He was accused of hosting parties where underage girls were reportedly given alcohol and pressured into inappropriate situations. Screenshots, DMs, and anonymous testimonies began flooding the internet. Percy denied the claims, saying it was a smear campaign. But Jenna didn't comment at all. No public statement, no social media clarification, not even a subtle unfollow. Fans were furious. They expected her to show support for the alleged victims or at least set the record straight. Instead, it looked like she was sweeping everything under the rug to protect her brand. And that brand? It's been shifting rapidly. Gone is the quirky, relatable teen from You Are Stuck in the Middle. In her place is a brooding, edgy persona who seems to gravitate toward dark, sexually complex roles with problematic men at the helm. Some fans feel like she's trying too hard to pull an Aubrey Plaza, but without the same finesse or irony. In You, she played Ellie Alves, a teenager manipulated by a serial killer. In X, she played a character involved in adult film scenes, just 5 months after turning 18. Even in Wednesday, a show aimed at teens, there were off-camera controversies that dragged her into murky territory. Reddit threads began pointing out a pattern. Jenna consistently gets cast in roles that put her in compromising adult situations, even when she's just barely crossed into adulthood. It's hard not to see a disturbing trend, and the fact that she keeps accepting these roles makes people wonder who's really making the choices, Jenna or someone else behind the scenes. Adding fuel to the fire are whispers from Hollywood insiders claiming she's becoming difficult on set. Crew members allegedly described her as intense, closed off, and hard to direct. Nothing has been confirmed, but even rumors can dent reputations, especially when your name is already tied to controversy. That's the thing about Jenna Ortega right now. Every move she makes is under a microscope. Every co-star, every director, every film choice sparks debate. And while some fans admire her for pushing boundaries, others feel like she's walking herself into a brand implosion. It doesn't help that she's now labeled as high-risk talent by certain studios. That's insider talk for may damage the brand. And in a business where perception is everything, being high risk is like walking through a minefield with your eyes closed. Some people still root for her. They see a young woman trying to redefine herself in a cutthroat industry. But others, they're just waiting for her next misstep. Waiting to pounce, because right now, Jenna Ortega is less of a rising star and more of a walking headline. Her silence continues to raise questions. Is it strategic? Is she trying to protect her roles and endorsements by saying nothing? Or does she simply not care what people think anymore? The internet is split. Some say she's fearless, others say she's reckless. But nearly everyone agrees. Jenna Ortega is no longer just an actress. She's a controversy machine. Her brand feels like it's hanging in the balance. One more misstep could tip her from edgy icon to full-blown liability. And with each project she chooses, especially ones involving men with troubling pasts, the risk only grows. Maybe Jenna's trying to burn the innocent image she built during her early years. Maybe she wants to be seen as serious, raw, or artistic. But in the process, she may be torching the trust her fans once had in her. In a world where reputation is currency, Jenna's balance is slipping fast. Her story is no longer about talent alone. It's about the choices that follow it, and right now people are watching closely.